Yes, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to this interview series of Mentor My Board, that is Boardroom Talks. Boardroom is a place where fortunes of great companies are written, and hence, in the pursuit of bringing the best practices, followed by boardrooms, followed by eminent directors, professionals who have been conducting the board practices, who have been guiding and acting as torch bearers for the corporates and the boards. So let me introduce first Mentor My Board to you. Mentor My Board is an up and running platform which is fully functional now, where corporate directors come together to learn, to network, to sharpen their boardroom skills and leadership skills. And we are on a mission to transform Indian corporate directors and boardrooms and create a community of 1 lakh directors by 2027. On 30th January, that is tomorrow, we have a unique boardroom directors roundtable. So don't miss out to join for the same. More than 100 directors, aspiring directors, will be joining this roundtable tomorrow, where Mr. R. Gopal Krishnan will be sharing his unique thoughts on directorial wisdom and the corporate governance. Thank you for viewing, liking, sharing the Boardroom Talks series, and for sharing your valuable suggestions and feedbacks. Kindly do share, like, subscribe our Facebook page, YouTube page, our LinkedIn page, and most importantly, join the community of Circle of Directors on Mentor My Board platform. So today I, CS Divya Momaya, founder of Mentor My Board, invite our esteemed moderator, CS Bharathy Iyer, who has reached 30 years of experience into the insurance sector, and she's an eminent advisor to Mentor My Board. Today, let's get ready for a boardroom talk with a very special person. That is Rajnickant Patel sir, who has been ex-MD of Bombay Stock Exchange, and most importantly, a wonderful support to the initiative of Mentor My Board. Thank you, sir, for that. And I request Bharti to introduce Patel, sir, to all of us. And over to you, Bharti.
Thank you so much, Divya. Good evening, Patel ji. I will like to call you Rajnickant because it reminds me of my favorite superstar. So I would just like to introduce your profile, which is a super achiever profile. So Mr. Patel started his career as a banker. He has worked with the Reserve Bank of India, MNC banks like PNB Paribas, public sector banks and state bank groups for more than 2 decades. Then Mr. Patel moved on to capital markets and has the distinction of becoming the first managing director and CEO of corporatized BSE, which is now the most fastest stock exchange with has a transaction speed of 6 microseconds. He has the distinction of transforming BSE, Asia's oldest stock exchange, into a corporate entity having $1 billion valuation. He was also the managing director and CEO of Indian Commodity Exchange, ICEX, which introduced India's first iron ore futures contracts. He has been part of the financial sector for more than 35 years, having markets commodity futures, and also is a regular on business TV channels like CNBC, C Business, ET Now, and Bloomberg. Mr. Patel has also been a keynote speaker at various international and national forums like the World Economic Forum, CBOS, US Securities, World Congress, etc. He has also been the recipient of many awards, including the Indira Gandhi Super Achiever Award, HR Excellence Award, a CEO with HR Orientation, IT People's Award, and many more. Mr. Patel has degrees in commerce, law, management, and various other qualifications from MIT Boston, IMF, Georgetown University, Oxford University, University of Toronto, University of Pennsylvania, Babson College, and others in areas like design thinking, behavioral economics, global business trend, corporate social responsibility, entrepreneurial mindset, etc. He takes master class for independent directors on corporate governance, ethics in corporate boards, risk management, and effective board performance. He also advises startups and corporate boards on the strategy, on corporate strategy, which makes him eminently qualified to be a mentor on Mentor My Board, like Divya was just saying. Most importantly, in my opinion, he has got a passion for motorcycle riding and regularly travels thousands of kilometers on motorcycles throughout India. Welcome, Rajnickant. Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to be here.
That's so nice of you. Yesterday we had just gotten together, I and Divya, and we thought that let us use your motorcycle enthusiasm, to see what are the various curves which take us through corporate governance and your journey as on the Bombay Stock Exchange, banking boards. So just start off with that, and then I will take you through the questions one by one.
Okay. Well, I think you got a very unique idea to really begin this talk. Basically, when we say boardroom talk, I know it's about talking. It's not about a monologue. So, what we do, yes. Do you find any similarity between riding a motorcycle and riding a business, running a business? I think both are uncertain because you never know what's going to come next.
Correct.
Both gives you thrill, and yes, you need to do a fantastic risk management when you are running business or when you are running a motorcycle. The
Correct.
second thing is you need to be aware about environment, what's around you. What's other thing is what is going to come to you, what is the next corner, what is it behind the next corner which you are not going. You sometimes go into black curve blindfolded. Even when you
Very
drive, it's not only motorcycle. When you drive a car, you take a turn and then suddenly you find the road, there is an obstruction, there is a roadblock, there is a diversion, and then if you are not into your control, you are not into control of your speed,
true.
you will actually run into a mishap. So
Absolutely.
when you are into a business, any entity, it could be a association, it could be individual, it could be company, corporate, whatever, but you are actually looking at handling the unknown factor. While on a ride, you know where you are, what is your destination, you know where you want to go, you also know
Correct.
which road you want to take. But can we be, when we start our journey, can we be sure what's going to come next in 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers? We don't know. We don't know when there is going to be a traffic jam and
Correct.
we might get stuck. Then do we take the diversion? Do we take the wrong road? Basically, on the wrong side. People in India, and if you go on a highway, people drive on a wrong side. So, as a corporate, do you really take shortcuts? Do you risk yourself and try to be there? Basically, when you are in business, you are looking at lot many targets. You want to be number one into whatever you're doing. You want to be number one in sales. You want to be number one in profitability. You want to be number one in reputation. Everywhere you want to be achieved, and that's a great ambition to be the leader. But
Sure.
at what cost? What are the roads? What are the routes you are going to take to achieve that?
Correct.
Secondly, just as a motorcycle or a vehicle has its limitation and its capabilities, but it needs to be matched with your own driving skills.
Very true.
You see, if you drive a car like a Porsche, it can do a 200, 300 kilometers per hour. Are we competent driver to handle that
Yes.
speed? Are we so mentally agile, so adapted, and so quick reflex that we'll be able to take action as it required, as it happens in a matter of fraction of a second? And secondly, do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the roads which can actually allow you to get speed up? So when you compare, I would say look at infrastructure, business infrastructure, capability of available resources, including human power. Then we look at the infrastructure in terms of government enablers, infrastructure
Ease of
provide. Sorry.
what is called now ease of doing business.
Yes, ease of doing business is one part. The second part is, do we have the resources available to you as a business at the optimal costing so that your costing doesn't go haywire? Similarly, when you drive a vehicle, you look at the average. Kitna deti hai? That's a very common thing. So you actually look at, say, okay, you have a road where you know that there are no petrol pumps available for 300 kilometers. In Ladakh, when you go for 300 kilometers, there is no petrol pump. So what do? You need to first make an estimate, an assessment. What is the normal kind of an average you're going to get? And that is
Correct.
where consumption pattern, based on that, you will either carry the additional fuel with you, or you will manage your driving in such a manner that you can be on that fixed kind of an consumption average so that you can travel that much.
So that
Otherwise,
takes micro planning actually.
exactly. It takes a lot of micro planning. At the same time, you need to be alert in terms of being able to do micromanagement, adjustments, modifications, diversions, whatever comes as you go across. You cannot just say, okay, I will stop here for a day, then I will think through, and then I will change my route. You don't have that time. Probably.
Absolutely. I mean, you have
So,
put it so succinctly. I don't want to stop you the flow, but I do want to come back to your journey as the first managing director of BSE. You know, because I felt that I was getting ahead of myself because I'm so interested in your profile. But I don't want you to, shortcut that. So please let us just travel back a little ways and go back to your skill sets and the journey of Rajnickant Patel onto the Reserve Bank of India, short while in private boards, and then how you came to be the first managing director of corporatizing BSE, the vision which was there for you, what made you do it, this type of things. I'm sure all our listeners are eagerly listening, waiting for you to tell us the secrets behind this.
okay. Well, I think it would be too long a thing to brief you, tell you in brief. Basically, you see, when I joined capital market and I got an offer from Bombay Stock Exchange, BSE, to be a director, uh, to tell you frankly, before that, I had no great idea about capital market.
Okay.
I, though being a good Jew, I still had not invested anything into share market. So I
Seriously, that's
really, uh,
indeed a
so
revelation.
and I had not handled or dabbled into stock market or share markets on other thing. And for me, when I got really an offer that okay, this is a time when I really liked it in the sense okay, I was already more than 2 decades into banking, different kind
Hmm.
of regulatory banking, the multinational banking, the public sector banking. So I had thought that okay, let me change over now to something different. You know, I had uh, entire field of banking, and that's why when this offer came along, I said, okay, it's a good thing. Let's look at it. So first thing I did was to join BSc Training Institute as a student to see what is share market, what is
Intriguing.
stock market. I actually joined them, and I joined it incognito in the sense I just enrolled as a normal student. I attended the lectures. I understood that, and then I said, okay, let give me two things. One was the a teacher's perspective of what is stock exchange. Basically,
Okay.
when the people used to come and the faculties, whatever, I just wanted to understand what do the others really feel, because when we get into on the seat on the exchange, then it's an employee's perspective. It's a different perspective. So I said, okay, let
Correct.
me understand how do other students perceive that. And you see, this is the time when it was in 2001. During that time, a lot of excitement and other things that actually happened. Some of them at like Harshad had already happened. Things were
Correct.
happening. So it was really interesting to talk to the my classmates and try to understand what it is. Somebody was there wanted to become a broker, somebody wanted to become a trader, somebody wanted to invest, and some people wanted career, they wanted job. So different perspective. And I met people. Some people had come, was sent by their employers to learn, training. So it really gave me a very different perspective. And I'm
Understood.
sure that I would not have got this had I just jumped and joined without going through this routine. So that was a discovery.
Hello.
Uh, I think his video got paused. Yes. Patel sir, if you can just switch off your video. I think he logged off. No. Okay. Uh, some network challenge with Rajnikant sir, and I think Bharti also got logged off. Bharti, you're there? Yeah.
Please excuse me. There was a call in the room.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think he got logged off. He will log in again, and in that time, he joins back. Let me tell you, tomorrow we have a wonderful interaction in the directors roundtable, which is happening from 5 to 7 in the evening. In case anyone wants to join this roundtable, please drop in the message in the chat box and we will make sure that you get the link to join this. And it's going to be really a wonderful interaction with such a person who has 5 decades of experience, who has served on Tata boards, who have served on the boards of Hindustan Unilever, and his insights on the directorial wisdom, very, very unique concept. And he has written more than 20 books. So I'm sure it will be a great lesson. It will be a great journey to interact with him for 2 hours on the platform of Mentor My Board. So please do join tomorrow. And again, most important thing is, let me tell you, Mentor My Board is up and running platform. Do come and visit the platform. Do register yourself for the platform. Here n number of things are waiting for you as director, as a promoter director, as a startup director. So please do
Hello.
join. Yes, sir, you are back. Yes.
Oh, the
Yeah.
technology issues.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
completely. No worries. Carry on, and over to you, Bharti and Patel sir.
yeah, okay,
Like you said, no infrastructure sometimes lets us down.
yes.
So you were telling us about your journey as a managing director of BSE and how you had a vision to corporatize it. So we felt that we wanted to explore that when you take on new enthusiasms like biking, is it because you have a vision of something, or like how did you have a vision about corporatization of BSE?
Okay, this was basically, as I was just sharing when we got disconnected, the same thing when I was to join for 3 4 days ago, the entire BSC episode happened. And that was a root cause of the entire change in the structure in the Indian capital market, because that
Okay.
Ketan scam happened, and the uh, mm, the BSE board was truncated by SEBI. So basically what happened, that the structure, the governance structure of Bombay Stock Exchange, which was a broker owned self-regulatory organization, was actually being called upon to test whether it is the right structure to be a self-regulatory organization. And from
Mm,
there, the whole idea of corporatizing the stock exchanges in India and then demutualizing. There are two things. Demutualization means separation between the ownership and the operation.
yes,
That
yes,
is demutualization. And the second part was the structure, which BSE was already a association of person, AOP, in
yes,
the earlier avatar, because it goes
correct.
back to 170 147 years or so, where it was all as came together as a under a banyan tree, came together as an association. And then they, during British time, it started trading cotton bales. Basically Indian traders used to come, and that's why the whole thing came, and then exchanges started it. So the whole structure was that it is better from the corporate governance perspective, that BSE not only demutualizes in the sense separation of ownership and the management happens, but at the same time, the structure is also a corporate structure. That's why it is corporatization and demutualization of the stock exchanges act was framed, and then whole thing came. Now, this is where the change in the entire Indian capital market began. Because before
Yes,
BSE, NSE was the only exchange which was a corporate entity, which didn't have broker on their board or broker on their ownership. BSE was
ownership.
the Asia's oldest exchange, but it was a broker-driven organization. When this governance issue came up,
Mm,
the challenge before the regulator was such a big entity, which is Asia's oldest and also the second largest exchange. How do we manage this to bring that confidence, that trust, that governance, the separation, and then non-interference, non-micromanagement of the entire operation, and then bring that faith, project that trust, so that the Indian capital market and the investor and the corporate entities and the financial investors, foreign investors, all those people actually get this um, uh, feeling that yes, we are dealing with a professional. And that is how the whole professionalization of the board and the professionalization of the entire management begun. And that's why we see now that we have had nominated directors, we have had independent directors, and all this entire structure. And that's a very interesting journey, because the most important part was you are taking away the ownership from the owners, and
exactly.
And then you are telling them, I'm not going to give you ownership. You will no longer be owner. But at the same time, you will not have any management say. It was a, I think it was the,
It was a
for
very
me, it was,
shift for them. Very
yeah,
big
it
shift, paradigm
very
shift.
big shift. And for me, it was the biggest challenge of my entire career. And I think it, any professional, it would have been the most challenge, because thing is, the government dictate was, you need to get them, take their ownership, take the ownership of the organization, the entire capital asset, everything, and just make them shareholder, and don't give them anything, a single naya paisa.
Correct.
So that's like, if you have rented out your premises, the tenant says that, okay, now it's my house and you get out.
Yeah, you get
It was a
out.
big
Shocking.
challenge. And
How long
that,
were you managing director?
sorry,
How long were you the MD and CEO?
my total tenure was around 8 years. Uh,
Wow.
mm. So this is the challenge, and that's why I think it is a very. I think if you take this as a case study, the
Correct.
BSE's conversion into a demutualized and corporate entity is can be a biggest case study for, like, as they say in a Harvard Business case study. It would be, because that tells you that you are a regulator, you are a self-regulatory organization, you are also amenable and accountable to the regulator like SEBI, to the ministry, to all others, and at the same time you are responsible for the entire set of investors, because
Correct.
after all, everybody comes to the stock exchanges to buy and sell, to invest
Absolutely.
into IPO. And then you go there and then see that the companies which come to you for listing, and how do they continue to comply with the governance. It is not one IPO listing that, okay, you complied on the very first day, but how do you
True.
continuously monitor them? How do you continuously monitor not only the trading, also the compliances of the corporate, which they do filing quarterly, and all other statement which they file? Do we really look into this? And then when they come with a follow-on public offers or additional listings and everything, how do you? So it's a very, very taxing, and it's also very, very. This is where the compliance actually takes root, because
Correct.
you are self-regulatory. So you got to regulate yourself, and you need to regulate your constituents, which is investors, which is brokers, and which is listed companies. All three different set you got to regulate. And then after all this thing, you are yourself to be regulated by SEBI and then ministry. So it's a complex thing, but I think since then 2001 onwards, when we really started on the journey of demutualized corporatized, I
Yes.
would say touch would be, it's more than 20 years, 21 years now, and we haven't had a major scam of
Yeah,
that
I
sort.
was reading in Business Standard about a report which says now it is the fastest stock exchange, 6
Yes.
microseconds. So in 2 decades, I'm just so surprised and amazed. Wonderful dynamic journey. Let's go back to the allegory of biking. So I was just saying, you have to learn how to brake, how to change direction quickly, how to hug the curves. How do you translate these techniques into boardroom tactics? Can these techniques be taught? How do you feel that Mentor My Board can inculcate this into its coaching program for boards, especially promoter or family driven boards? Just your perspective, your
Yeah.
thoughts.
It's very interesting and relevant subject. If you really juxtapose that, whatever you said, how do you brake and how do you accelerate and how do you actually lean into, this is what it is. And this is where the difference comes in between the independent directors and the promoter directors. Acceleration, when you want to speed up, that's the mindset of a promoter directors. That is your right hand. When you on a motorcycle, you control your accelerator with your right hand, and you control your brakes with your foot, with your
Correct.
feet. So that is what it is. That when you are riding any vehicle, both are required. If it is only acceleration, you will definitely meet with some accident. You will not be able to control. If it is only brake, you will never make a progress. You will never move forward. And therefore, both are required. And what is required is a clutch when you make the gear changes. And that is
Hmm.
where your governance comes in. That is where your regulations comes in. These are the
Wow.
clutches which actually puts you then disengages the engine. So if the engine is going too fast, apply clutch, disengage it, apply brake, slow it down, and then when this situation is okay, again favorable, release the clutch, accelerate, and go ahead. And that is what the board is actually supposed to do, isn't it? Board is supposed to be friend, philosopher, guide. It is the one which is going to say, okay, there are examples of, I mean, we can find many of them. When the board has actually given a direction to the management, please go ahead and do something fast, do something great, go ahead. So that is like acceleration. And there are certain ways in project where management board would have said, no, calm down. I think we are going ahead of our time. We don't have the real infrastructure, the backup, and we are jumping on the speed breakers. So let's first not jump so that we fly on the speed breaker and then come down thud with a dud. So we need to smoothly, speed breakers will always be there.
There, correct.
And the irregularities on the road surface will always be there. In a business, you will always find business cycles, business competition, you become obsolete, anything can happen. So the idea is, how do you take yourself on that bump without losing your composure, without losing your balance, and also at the same time maintaining your momentum. You can stop totally and then slowly climb over and then start and restart. That is one way of looking. The other way is that when you see further ahead, there is a bump ahead, you actually
Yeah,
prepare yourself and
correct.
control your speed, control your braking, so that when you go over that bump, it's a smooth transition. And that is
Correct.
what the board is supposed to actually look at it. That are we changing our business strategy? Are we changing, going in for new project? Are we trying to be in compliance with the changing rules and regulations, changing laws? Like see BS6, a standard which has come, and
Ah,
therefore you see, if I just give you example, BS4 Bharat stage 4, which was a pollution control standard, where the government said that henceforth no BS4 old technology vehicles will be allowed to be sold, to be registered.
okay,
And
correct.
then only BS6, that is Bharat stage 4 6, compliable engines also will only be registered. Now what does that mean?
Correct.
That every vehicle manufacturer has to undergo its assembly line, has to revise, change its engine, its vehicles, to apply its entire pollution control norms of second, and then come out. So there was a gap. There was also somebody actually overproduced, could not, and they had to then almost scrap that vehicles
Yeah,
because you could not. And then somebody came up very late with the new engine, so they lost market, because by the time the guy who was really agile, those vehicles actually the manufacturers actually came up with the immediately came up. Somebody even went before the government deadline and introduced that, okay, my vehicle is now BS6 standard compliant. So they were
compliant.
ahead of the deadline. So this is what it is, that how do you interpret and look at the regulations, the changing environment of rules and regulation, and then how do you prepare, gear up yourself before, after, and what are the pros and cons of this? These are the strategies which I think applies as well in driving as well as in running a business.
Correct. So I was just wanting to ask you what happens to most businesses during COVID. Now we are again accelerating after this huge COVID speed breaker.
Yeah.
What do you feel has affected? Because you are on the BSE, you know, understand what is happening in lots of small businesses which are happening around India. What do you feel is the hugest speed breaker, and are they accelerating? Is really a V curve what they're talking about in the economy there? Budget is going to be announced shortly. So, your thoughts on this?
Okay. It's always taking a little bit of a gamble when you look at around budget time. uh,
Yes.
no, but I tell you what, whether it's a big business houses or it's a small business house, the impact will be felt more by the small businesses, small and medium sector, because that is where they're very able to withhold themselves, hold themselves up against such a prolonged period of losses or challenges, financial challenges. It's their capacity is less, while bigger corporates can actually maybe jump over that in a smaller, in a controlled manner. So when we look at the recovery, I believe recovery is something which definitely is happening, started,
Okay.
and it is happening. But do
Mm.
you see in terms of degree, I don't think that we are back to normal.
Mm.
And the benchmark of normal has shifted. And the normal now, what we call new normal is not normal, actually.
Actually.
It is abnormal because that new normal is very differently placed for different categories of people. For
So,
me,
like in biking parlance, there's a new curve. So
yes,
you have to hug the curve or you'll be derailed totally.
exactly. See
So
what
this
happens when
new
you take,
normal has been created by the new COVID normal, and you have to either take advantage of this. Like for example, lots of businesses who were into auto parts manufacture, they went into heart lung machine manufacture or PPE manufacture. So either you have to learn to hug the curves or you will get derailed. So like this, if you can give some anecdotes like that, Rajnickant, it will be
okay.
really
See, I tell you what, where there are in even in motorcycling world, there are different kinds of motorcycles and different kinds of the way you use it. There is a sports bike or a racetrack bike, which actually is a foolishness to run that on the
mm,
public road, because
correct.
those bikes are not manned. They are so differently designed that they can lean at almost flat to parallel to the road, and then again it can cow back and stand up and go. Now that requires a tremendous skill, but then it can happen. Now if you take a normal commuter bike and then
Mm,
try to do the same, it will actually skid because it's not
mm,
designed to take that. Now that is what happens in the businesses, and that's why we always say sustainability when we talk of a business. It is
very
not
correct.
only that sustainability does not confine itself to your present mode of business or present assembly line or present manufacturing. Sustainability will actually look at your ability to do multitasking or use
Mm,
it for multifarious activities, so that in case of an emergency you are able to shift and still remain sustainable without going in for the entire scrapping off and going for new.
correct.
That sort of an adjustability, adaptability. Now of course the new businesses, particularly in a manufacturing, and I when we because we are into vehicle automobile industries, they have now come with a thing like which is called platform. They don't call
Mm,
manufacturing, they have a platform. Now same platform, you can make a truck, you can make a car, you can make a SUV, you can make anything. Now that the whole structure remains the same, but then you can change the body part, body panels and everything, and you can multiple use different kind of petrol engine, diesel engine. And now we are looking at hybrid. This is an
yes.
evolution. Electric and petrol driven vehicles, hybrid. And then we are of course now looking at totally electric vehicle. Now this, look at that, from a petrol or a diesel engine to hybrid to a total electric vehicle. Now that is a shift which is happening. Now if any industry is not adaptable to this change shift in the entire focus, will be thrown out. And for
Correct.
that, therefore, it is very important to be alert, agile, and be flexible. So,
Correct.
give you one analogy: when you see a racing guys, racetrack, you will see they will almost shift themselves, the rider, almost out, hanging out of the seat. He doesn't keep
Yeah.
on sitting there. And when he's going into car, what does that mean? That when you are taking a left-hand turn, you are actually, the rider actually goes out and hangs on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And when
To
he's
balance.
taking a left hand side, he's actually moving his entire weight, center of gravity, on the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So businesses require this sort of a, particularly for smaller businesses and medium businesses, this sort of a flexibility is the most important part. That you
Correct.
should be actually not looking at in the direction in which the curve is going. You should be actually shifting yourself from the other side, so
Right.
that when the time comes when you have to take a left turn to right turn, you are actually
Yeah.
prepared with that sort of a balancing, so that you can actually be in control rather than
So,
just skidding
so
out.
I see that Divya has joined us again because she's got the same thing in mind. The
Yeah,
vision, this, techniques, which brings me back to my original question. Do you feel that Mentor My Board can inculcate this into its coaching program? First of all, can this be taught? Having a vision, learning to implement the vision, understanding how to brake, accelerate, have the curve, change your balance. This agility, can it be taught to boards? Can it be taught to directors? And if so, how does Mentor My Board build it into its coaching and mentoring program?
Okay. There are two issues here, principle. I mean, two concepts. One is at the board, and second, the directors. You see, when you look at board, we are actually looking at the corporate culture.
Yes.
And we are looking at the corporate philosophy, corporate DNA. Basically, it comes from, of course, all corporate somewhere began with the promoter. Somebody actually came up and started that. So it comes into play there, the entire philosophy, the way to look at things, and the way of doing business. Because every business, though it is a standard same business, even if the process, operating procedure templates may be same, but businesses would be different. It's run differently. Let's take an example of banks. Almost Reserve Bank in India controls and banking regulation. Almost all banks have the similar thing, but even then, every bank is known to be different. So that is where. Can this be taught to directors? I say rather than taught, I would like to say, can this be a learning experience for the directors? So can we really gain something out of it? Definitely. I believe that yes, any sort of, just today, just look at, we are trying to look at the motorcycle riding and the running a business. We are trying to, and we can learn a lot of things on both sides. So that is very important. And therefore, I think learning never stops. And therefore, to directors, it is very important that we understand the nuances. And then when you look at that, we have to look at what category of directors: promoter directors, independent directors, executive directors, nominee directors, all four different. And everybody has a different reference point.
Correct.
Independent directors are totally different. Promoters have a very different reference point to begin, and nominee directors have a different. Their interests is lies somewhere else, and executive directors have their different interests. So, can we really amalgam all those varying interests to look at one single objective, and that is to run the business sustainably in compliance and create wealth for all its stakeholders? These 3 points, if these are our target quadrants, we can definitely work on it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I just wanted to ask you another question. The most important thing while you're biking, I'm talking about mountain terrains during the wet weather, and unexpected things around the corner, because you're an expert on risk management, where we look around the corner. Okay, we anticipate something will come up. So you need to focus, and more focus. So how important is it for directors and for you as a biker to empty your head and heart of emotions before tackling situations at board meetings? Does one practice this when undertaking adventure sports, like, for example, biking to Ladakh, Sikkim? How and when is it important to stay icy calm, yet you have to be empathetic, because you are an HR expert as well? What learnings you would like to share with our directors on boards, especially of family-owned businesses or SMEs? Any sage advice from you to family-run companies who are letting go of control, because they have that control attitude and they are letting it go when they're diluting their stake by listing for IPOs on the SME?
Okay. There are a lot many questions linked here, but of course there is a thread running. You see, let's take an example. We begin with that and then end. Begin with when you are actually riding on a highway, on any road, and you have a car approaching you. If you are onto the right hand side or near the median, dividers, when it turns, you will not be able to see what is coming next.
Correct.
You are totally blind. So this technique is that whenever you see a right hand curve coming in, you actually move to the left hand side. So your periphery vision, the vision expands, and you are able to see what is coming on the right hand side near the divider. Because sometimes when you take a sharp right turn, you may find a stalled vehicle, and when you can't see it, you will coming at, even if you're coming at a very reasonable speed, you have no time to move here and there, and you might just bang into that stationary vehicle, and therefore you got to see on the other side. What does that mean in business terms, particularly for SME segment? That
Yes.
when you are into one focused area of operation on your product, services, whatever business, you need to see that when there is a challenge coming in, how do you see it yourself? Are you looking at from the straight line perspective, only being at the right hand side near the divider and then trying in? That is a very narrow focus. But you need
Yes.
to move on the other side and expand your view, angle of view, so that you can take into account lot many other information which is available to you, and then take a evasive action or a corrective measure. Maybe you can apply brake, or maybe you take a little diversion. You actually sometimes accelerate it out of any mishap. It is not, we generally believe, generally people wrongly believe that, you want to avoid an accident, you need to brake. No, particularly when a motorcycle riding, sometimes, you need to accelerate and then come out of it. When you are taking a turn,
Right.
we never, the rule is that when you are into middle of the curve, never brake,
Never
actually
break.
accelerate, because your momentum requires that you are into a slant, basically slant. So if you don't give the power to the vehicle, you will
Ah,
actually go slide. And if you,
yeah.
the moment you brake, it will actually slide you down. So you need to power out, as we say, now power out of your situation. You need to
Mm.
power out. That is also I mean, not only an available option, sometimes it is the only option available. So
So
we
in
need
board
to,
meetings, can you give us any anecdotes which very brilliantly illustrated, really brilliantly illustrated? So can you just share any anecdotes which come to your mind?
okay, rather than sharing an anecdote, I will leave some thought. You see, 2020 has been a very hard year for everybody. 2020 also is a bad year for monsoon points, irregular monsoon and everything. Either we had flood, we had drought. Now, I'm going to ask this question, and for everybody else, there is no right and wrong answer. So let's give a food for thought. There is a board meeting happening. The drought situation is there. The government has said that most of the states will have a drought. They are drought prone, and so drought situation is coming. And it's a
Correct.
normal board meeting. There is nothing special, no special agenda, no additional agenda, just a normal meeting. And you are a director and you're having a board meeting. Everything goes through, management says these are the budget, this is whatever, blah, 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 all these things. Then the chairman says, okay, now we have finished the today's agenda. If anybody wants to say, any directors want to say anything, we are welcome, you're welcome.
Right.
Now, as a director, you may be independent actor, you may be executive actor, you may be promoted actor, whatever. I'm just not going to give you any label. As a director on the board, what do? Meeting is fine. The agenda has been done. Everything has been done. And now let me give you a small complication. You are a
Mm.
director on a cold drink manufacturing company, maybe
Okay.
Pepsi, Cola, whatever, that kind of thing. Okay.
Okay.
Now, does something come to your mind as a director, given all the information which I just shared with you?
Correct.
Or is it okay, normal, and let's finish it and have our cup of coffee and go home?
No, naturally, you will explore business opportunity for your other company as well, provided there are no related party implications.
Okay. Okay. That is very good. It's very technical. Okay. I was just looking at a different thing. You see, what we did was we, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Uh, See, we gave two information. 2020, there was a drought. Government has declared drought situation. And you are a director on a cold drink manufacturing company. What is your resource?
Water consumption is high.
Water consumption, right? And you are into, definitely you are into a drought, because most of the states are drought prone. So you are into that. Now, as a director, whatever, irrespective of whatever label you have, just see what is it. Can you really afford to increase your business? Use this water resources, whereby no, in a drought situation, people don't get drinking water. So in that situation, we are going to either use bottled water or aerated soft drinks. What is it? A, as an independent director, are you taking care of all the interests? Corporate social responsibility, regulations, maybe if there is one. as an executive director, what is your worry? What happened? Loss of job? What happened? Company may shut down factory for the time being. And as a promoter director, you are looking at what are my profits. And as a shareholder director, I mean representative, you look at what is going to happen to a stock market valuation. Am I going to lose all the shares price, and then because the company, everybody will perceive that this company, because of the drought, it's not going to come. Now this is where mentor my board can come in. This is our way of looking at things. In this situation, we don't teach anybody, but we share that in such a situation, how does each category of a director look at this situation, suggest, and then work together with the board, entire board, to find out a solution which is uh, sustainable, which takes care of all the stakeholders. At the same time, it also meets its CSR abilities, so that you as a company has done good for the society, good for the stakeholders, and good for yourself. Now, this is the permanent dilemma, Bharti, which comes to all the boards, and particularly it will come to independent directors more. And this becomes aggravated much more when you look at small and medium companies, because for them, one decision can actually close them down.
Yes.
I
So
think
this,
I completely agree, and this actually takes me to ask you one question. You have been, in your journey as a MD and CEO of BSE. I'm sure you have seen a lot of companies with good governance, a lot of companies with not so good governance. So how have you seen the role of independent directors evolving with a true by spirit of law, and not only
words of law.
by the words of law? Yes. So how many companies, or how has been the trend you have observed in the Indian corporate, because you have seen the entire corporate India from the top? So I wanted to ask you this question for long, so this is the platform. I think I must ask you this question.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, very relevant also. And I tell you what, it is a shifting of scale. It is not a stagnant answer. The question is the same. It will remain same. It was relevant 20 years ago. It is relevant today. It probably will be relevant 20 years hence. But the answers, as for me, what I have seen, has been evolving. It has been shifting. The goalpost is always shifting. Prior to corporatization, demutualization, the SEBI coming, even before prior to SEBI coming in as an regulator, which is now 30 plus years, you know, you've seen that the whole concept at looking at such things were very different. Then regulations coming in, regulator coming in, tightening of the entire regulatory system actually change the promoter director's thinking slightly. Then when this entire demutualization corporation happened, the entire regulation became online. We have had online surveillance. We have got listing day agreement, which is now, every day is getting much and more, of course, complicated. But at the same time, it is becoming more and more tighter or more fine. It become finer. So in that
Correct.
situation, and then corporate disclosures and quarterly results, and then listed companies coming in and declaring the quarterly result, and every analyst actually coming in and analyzing that. And therefore, of course, on one hand, I'm not very much in favor of it, because it creates a profit pressure on the management, top management. The CEO has to every quarter has to really come out with reason why he did not do well, or he has to actually put a figure where every quarter he has to come. You can't do magic every quarter on quarter. He may be anything, you may be the topmost company, but you can't do magic, and that leads to a little bit of iota, or it gives you a little bit of a leeway where accounting can be fudged, or some sort of a malpractices actually have an Trojan horse kind of a situation which can come in. And that's why a lot of corporate scandals which we have seen comes because it
Yes.
is like that.
So,
Now,
sir, exactly what you're saying.
hmm,
So, you have seen the era wherein there were lesser governance,
yeah,
and now there is probably everybody starts feeling or started feeling. I had read one article which Kiran Mazumdar Shaw had also mentioned. So, over regulation or too much of regulation, and that was a time when there were minimum regulation, jitna zaruri hai. So, do you think the better governance practices were there at that moment, or today we are at better? So today also frauds are happening. That day also frauds were happening. So, which if you see your perspective, because you have seen both the eras. So, role of independent directors or the even promoter directors. So, how the roles have evolved, or do you think they still need to be evolved, or what are the challenges probably are there what they are facing?
Okay. I'll tell you what, the governance was there even before,
Correct.
just as frauds were there. Frauds are there today. Is also there today. The question is, how do we define them?
Correct.
How do we actually augment that? The unregulated governance, which came from a DNA of a corporate, said some corporate would never do anything wrong. At least they will try to make it 100%. So those were there. Now what has happened? Divya is right. Over regulation. I'm coming to that. The whole idea is that we are trying to define, and then actually bring it out into open. That this is the governance kind of a level which we want. That is what regulation is doing, and regulation should do that dynamically. The issue is, are we, in order to regulate the flow of water, are we closing down the tap by
Yeah.
being too strict? And that is
Correct.
where the over-regulation has its perils. That you can't, and then what happens practically? It happened in Sarmas-Oxley time also, that it became
Yeah.
a tick box exercise. Everybody
Correct.
wanted a huge 20-page, 40-page, 50-page thing, tick, 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 tick. Now, does it mean then everybody is only ticking rather than doing anything? That was it. So what we need is a principle-based regulation rather than a prescription-based regulation. We need to actually look at regulation which prescribes you what is right,
Correct.
how things should be done, rather than prescribe you do A, B, C, D, and then you tell me the format where you have complied with A, B, C, D, yes, yes, yes. Nobody is going to say no. I mean, majorly nobody is going to say no that I had. They will somehow work out a way, because see, you have to be in the system. You just can't say that just because I am not complying with 10 items, I'm going to close down my business, go home, and then put up my feet in the air. No, it's not going to happen. And that's why the governance, the regulator, and the government has to walk the razor's edge in terms of making regulation relevant, but at the same time, never doing over regulation.
Correct.
Define principles, define how you want the principles to be complied with, and define what are the parameters which you would actually like to measure the compliance. But that's all, rather than prescribing pages and pages of this. I believe that, let's come back to this, the latest thing where independent directors examination.
Yeah.
Now it has both age. It adds any independent director knowledge. It really equips him with the knowledge, but at the same time, what happens that it should not fall into just a memorizing
Exercise.
exercise.
Agreed. Agreed.
And then you probably will lose out the more experienced people who would rather bring you the learning and the experience from their entire say years of experience in the working in that, rather than bringing and telling you clause number so and so you got to do this. Now clause number, here very relevant, I just want to share with you. When I was doing my law graduation, my professor used to tell us, a good lawyer is not the one who remembers all the laws. A good lawyer is the one who knows where to look for relevant law.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
can't, we have so many enactments. You can't really, you have to be superhuman computer to remember all the clauses and all the laws. So it is not possible. What you need to know, what does that mean? You need to know what is relevant act, and and where to look for it. Now here the most important thing is analysis and interpretation. A situation like this, when we talked about that soft drink making company in a drought time drawing water resources, how does that work? So here you need to be able to see what is the situation which is in front of you, what does that
Correct.
mean, where does it leads, and what are the things which we should find out. These are the relevant laws or applications or relevant strategies. It doesn't always have to be law. It's basically a business strategy. Okay, in this situation, in a COVID situation, we are coming back to COVID-19. In the COVID situation, we look at people doing lot many other things from home, new opportunities.
Correct.
Now, a person who was never going to come and deliver to your home anything, never ever. It was
Correct.
you go and fetch something. Now he has to understand situation has changed. So I need to go to my customer rather than waiting for my customer to come to me. Things have changed. And now this is what it is. This is where the sustainability can be sustained. You can sustain your sustainability for a sustainable period.
Correct.
That is the way it is, because that is where you need to find out the small niches. It may not be a big gap, you just can't create a $1 billion company out of it, but you can actually have your 1 lakh or 2 lakh or 3 lakhs income coming in, so that you can sustain, so that whenever there is a million or $1 billion opportunity comes, you are there, you are surviving,
That,
you are thriving, and you are
You
actually
be at
there
the right
present,
time.
so that you can actually look at.
You must
That
be
is
the
where
right
I'm just come.
person. Sorry to interrupt you,
Please,
Rajnickant. You must be the right person, as in right company, at the right time, at the right place, to seize
yes,
the right opportunity.
that's
Yeah,
right.
I think we are almost drawing to a close, and I do
Yeah.
want to ask you this because you're one of the chief advisors and the most valuable mentor, I can say. So, somebody in one of our earlier boardroom talks, when we were asking about Mentor My Board, they said that Mentor My Board is basically a concept, an idea whose time has come. Now, this is a direct quote from an earlier guest. Now, as a principal mentor and an advisor to Mentor My Board and to Divya, we would really be privileged to hear you on what you feel about Mentor My Board, where you think we can grow, and also your thoughts on specifically on independent directors, women independent directors, how you feel that we can group them.
Okay. First, let's take the mentor my board. Yes. Okay. Of course, Divya has been so much committed to this concept that I'm really I'm amazed, frankly speaking. This is the word I would say, that
Yes,
with her dedication and then her commitment to the cause, and that is what is required. That when we look at the dynamic situation, particularly from the business, from the compliances, and from the regulatory perspective, and it is changing so fast. The world is changing so fast. It is throwing up new challenges like COVID and lockdown and all other. It not only on the financial part, it is also on the human part. I know that is also there. So in that situation, we need a management team. We need a board which actually can have a overview view for all the things, and then try to work out a best suitable strategy for the business, for the stakeholders. And that is where I think Mentor My Board MMB can actually play a very pivotal role in terms of giving the platform for ideation, for discussion, for finding out that yes, if this is the situation, can we bring something from here, can we bring something for here, and try to find a solution. I would say we have a solution centric approach rather than a teaching approach.
very
Because when you
nice.
say teaching, we get defined, this is the book and this is what you teach. we need to
Correct.
we need to look at it solution. MMB should be a solution provider, even at the ideation level, even at the strategy level, even at the knowledge level, learning level, rather than saying that okay, come here and take this knowledge and go. No, we are going to create the knowledge. We need to create solutions out of that knowledge, that learning, and the learning becomes a solution. I think that is what role the MMB should be playing.
In fact,
And
I'll tell you, sir, just to interrupt here, the roundtables concept, what we have designed, is exactly what you mentioned today. That come with a challenge, come with a problem which your board is facing, and here the mentors are there who come every month. Unique mentors come on the platform to actually give you the solutions. To actually, while you're listening to somebody else's challenge, okay, this challenge I also have in my board. So
yeah,
let me figure it out. So,
exactly.
learning with each other's experiences, sharing with each other's experiences, and getting the right mentoring from the experts from the boardroom, Indian boardrooms.
Yeah.
So that's what exactly have been, we have been doing. So I think we are on right track. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
So over to you again for your discussion. Yeah.
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 So just continue. Yeah. Whatever
Yeah.
you feel that we should do, or what actually Mentor My Board, the unique space which is occupying, and what you feel that we can do, and then we'll close.
Yeah. Okay. Before that, I think women director, you asked me about women director. Yeah. I would say, see, the whole concept is to be not only seen from the gender equality perspective. It is not a gender issue. I don't consider that as a gender issue. I
Yes.
consider that as a perspective issue. Women are much more they have a much brighter perspective than the man, that is not, it's not that women versus man, but it is that you are more sensitive, and therefore you can actually bring in the balancing factor in terms of putting off across a different view, a different
Right.
perspective. And that is what the boards need today. That we are only business focused. You need something a softer approach. You are only on a softer approach. You need somebody to really put you and say, okay, this is probably the right way. So from that perspective, they going forward, I should say, going forward, regulation is there. Of course, it is the minimum level. Regulations are always there for minimum. They're okay, you should have that many number of women. But I would say going forward, as we see women coming into the entrepreneurship, women coming into executive post, and then contributing a huge thing. I think internationally, the kind of successes and the achievement which is level which are, I think that should translate back into our Indian company boards. And we would see someday, we'll see a diaspora, basically a whole thing where we get very, very different perspective, and women are just part. You don't have to say women directors. Directors should imply that there are women directors as well. No need
Very
of
true.
branding them or labeling them. That what is so special? I would say a board needs to have women director, need to have directors, and that's all. They are directors.
In fact, I'll tell you, sir, a lot of people told me, that why don't you make your platform women centric? That will give you more weightage, that will give you more, probably a CSR also. Because
Hmm.
a lot of people want, because it's women empowerment
Yeah.
is again one of the SDGs of the world.
Right.
And I always, wanted that we are directors first and then men or women. So let's,
Exactly.
focus on grooming the boards, grooming the directors, whether men, women, that's a different matter altogether.
Yeah.
So why only to focus on women has never hit my mind. So I'm really happy that you touched this point. And again, due to paucity of time, I mean,
Yeah.
so many interactions still needs to be done with you. And
Ah,
the most unique thing about this entire conversation today, which I liked, was total different perspective to the boardrooms from a biking perspective. And thank you, Bharti, for bringing this concept.
so it was so intriguing when I read
And
Rajnickant's profile.
yeah,
Amazing profile.
I'll tell you, Rajnickant Patel sir has been the mentor at our boardroom mastery programs. For all the boardroom mastery programs, he has been there with us. And I'm going to tweak the topic now. Ride the boardroom journey with Rajnickant Patel.
Correct.
That's going to be the next topic for the next boardroom mastery program with the Patel sir. But yes, thank you for your presence today here, and I'm really, humbled for your presence, your always mentoring and support to me as the founder, as the entrepreneur. And I know I am a startup, so I keep telling everyone that I need a lot of mentoring. So please keep showering your knowledge with us on this platform, and look forward for great interactions always with you. And once again, thank you to Bharti for you. I know you have been so busy and still you take out time for these boardroom talks for.
Absolutely my privilege. Today was indeed my privilege. Thank you so much, Rajnickant. Really,
Yeah. So let
very
me
amazing.
just add as a closing remark here. Tomorrow we have a directors roundtable from 5 to 7. If anybody still wants to join in, please drop in the message in the chat box and we'll make sure that you are attending that. Second, sir, I would like to invite you also for the directors roundtable tomorrow. In case you have time, please do join in. And third, most important announcement which I want to make is the tie-up of Mentor My Board with the Competent Boards Canada. We have, been working now as a partner for Competent Boards in India. and they have a certification program on ESG, which is a very, very burning issue in the world today. And this is something wonderfully curated program, and I'm sure that in fact attracted me to them when I spoke to them. And Mr. Gopal has connected us with the competent boards, and I'm sure lot of Indian companies, promoters, senior management executives who have international presence, who have the more responsibility in their minds towards the social responsibility, the environment, they must attend this, because at the boardroom perspective to those aspects as a world leaders, is really going to be different, and they must enroll for this certification program. So once again, thank you, sir, for being here with us, and I'm sure these interactions are not sufficient. We will keep inviting you for these talks again and again with different perspectives, different topics. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and
All the way.
Divya, you wanted to remind that YouTube will be the platform.
Yes, thank you, Bharti, for reminding this. So next week onwards, we will be going live on YouTube and not on Facebook, because a lot of people have said, we want these sessions to be on YouTube. So
YouTube.
we will be, we tried to do it on both, but it could not happen. So we will be going live on YouTube, and stay tuned and keep liking, keep sharing the Facebook, the LinkedIn, and the YouTube pages of Mentor My Board. Last but not the least, join the community of Mentor My Board on the platform. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All the best.